Welcome back to the channel. This is Trinity Storm, and you are watching fifth part of What If Betrayed Naruto Chose a Different Path. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Now, wasting no more time, let's start the story.
The police department for Wave Warehouse. Naruto got there 30 minutes after he did. Most warehouses can't be said to be examples of cleanliness and order, but police's warehouse was pretty clean and organized, even if it was a bit crowded with all the utilities, supplies, and other things that were stored there. But it was pretty well soundproofed, and Naruto's soundproofing seal made it even better. This was done just to be safe. It was better that he didn't see the man who was known for peeping, possible adultery, and running a spy network. He was only about 40 feet away. Naruto had told Soji, Hana, and Makoto everything in about 20 minutes, and now he was watching as they thought about what to do and were slightly shocked by what they had just heard. Hana and Makoto spoke out about it, but Soji's face just got harder. Most people in the shinobi world didn't think much of Samurai's and Shinsengumi of Mizu because they didn't think they were as good as shinobi. But Naruto found out that Shinsengumi weren't just as good as shinobi. In many ways, they were even better. They didn't think it was beneath them to study ninjutsu and learn how to control and manipulate chakra while also following a strict code of honor. Shinsengumi were trained to be so good with swords that one of them could kill at least a dozen simple soldiers or a shinobi without much trouble, and they could do more than that. Naruto had seen the Shinsengumi use their swords to cut through whole battalions of shinobi, showing that they were better at kenjutsu than the shinobi. Hirazuki style was made so that enemies could be killed quickly, but it could also be used as a defense if necessary. Shinsengumi would also be encouraged to learn other kenjutsu styles of fighting, not only to learn more skills but also to be able to use more than just Hirazuki. Many Shinsengumi members, like Soji and Naruto, had also learned other styles of kenjutsu that could be used not only for quick fights but also for longer ones. Shinobi and Shinsengumi have different skills, ways of using swords, and even ideas about how to fight with swords. This was made clear in Mizu's Civil War, when Shinsengumi, which used chakra and came from Mikawa, cut through shinobi of Mizu, armies of Oda and Toyotomi, and many other feudal lords. This led to the Tokugawa faction winning and Shinsengumi being recognized as national heroes and given. And Soji Okita was their best. He joined Shinsengumi when he was only 9 years old, making him their youngest member and arguably their best. He joined Shinsengumi not because he had no other choice, but because his land needed protection during the Civil War and his family was in danger. Considering what shinobi of Kiri were like back then, he joined Shinsengumi. Soji fought his way through Mizu's Civil War, becoming a captain at 14 years old. He did this with a sword in his hand, a steel will, and a steel mind. When he met Naruto, he and Naruto quickly became respectful of each other and then best friends. Naruto cured Soji's tuberculosis when it was still in its early stages, which saved his life. After the war ended, Naruto decided to settle down in Wave. Soji, who had only ever known how to fight, decided to learn what it was like to live in peace and joined Naruto in Wave. Soji had a few jobs here and there, but his main source of income was training Wave's police force. He has done a good job at this, but he can't prepare for 2S-ranked nuke nins to show up like they did yesterday. He also lived a peaceful life with his wife Hana and taught Makoto Sarutobi, who took to swordsmanship and the ways of the Shinsengumi like a fish to water. Now, Naruto has gone to see Soji and his family to ask him something he didn't think he would hear. Soji took a deep breath and spoke up after his wife and student had calmed down. Soji thought about everything and said, "Naruto, what you want me to do and what your mother wants you to do are both impossible to do on your own or with my help. As soon as you start to finish it, you will start a civil war in Konoha, and everyone on your list will fight you. You might be able to beat them, even without Kurama's power, but the number of people killed will be huge, and the village will be covered in blood. Do you understand?" Naruto said to him, "Quite well, Soji," and he meant it. "I know for a fact that while I personally have power equal to that of Hashirama Senju, if you count Kurama in, I am still a single shinobi up Agazant what is essentially half of Konoha and their forces. However, yesterday, when Tsunade had told me of this mission, I recalled Ieyasu and his plan on ending the war, the way to defeating Nobunaga, Yugura, Hideyoshi and all those other powerful warlords. I believe you also remember how we did it back then." "Yes, I do," Soji said, remembering a time before he knew what Naruto meant to him and what the most important part of Naruto's plan was, even though he didn't say it out loud. "I see. You want to be the fire of hope for the people of Konoha. Reach out to the oppressed and lift their spirits through hope. This will give them the will to fight for a better tomorrow." Naruto told him, not all of them, Soji. Konoha is corrupt, maybe to the point where it would be best to just destroy it, but my experience in war has taught me that even in the darkest of places, there may be those whose hearts still carry light. And their light might just become the cleansing flame against the corrupt, but it must first be nourished, until. Naruto paused and let out a single chuckle. Until the wolves can bear their fangs. Hana and Makoto didn't quite get this, but Soji did. Aku. Soku. Zan. Soji repeated the Shinsengumi's most important idea, which was at the heart of their philosophy. Slay evil immediately. Now I understand why you needed me, my friend. You need not only my blade and skills, but also the teachings of Shinsengumi to start the fires of the revolution. Hey, how ironic, Soji said with a small laugh and a smile. Hana asked him, what's so funny, dear? Because she wanted to know. Soji told Hana with a small smile, when Shinsengumi was first formed, their main goal was to stop a rebellion in the works. And now, the same ideas that the first Shinsengumi used to stop the rebellion are going to be used to start a revolution in Konoha. If you think about it, that's irony at its best. I'm not making you go with me, Soji. You, Hana, and Makoto don't need to go back there, and I'm not making you. Hana said to Naruto, it's nice to know that you care about us, but you're wrong here. She had thought about it carefully on her own. I am deeply grateful to you for putting Kiba to the sword for all that he has done to me and others, but he is only a symptom of disease that turned once a proud and strong Inuzuka clan into a horde of rabid mutts and a disgrace of Konoha. If you were planning of cleaning up that cesspool, I would like to be there when my mother gets what's coming to her. That is, if you, Soji-kun, are willing to go as well. Hana looked at her husband with devotion and care. Soji told Naruto, I don't like to mix personal feelings and duty, because it blurs the line between honor and desires for revenge and vengeance. But I think I can stay professional while also satisfying my own desires for revenge and justice, and Naruto just smiled. I would have preferred to deal with Kiba Inuzuka in person, since he insulted my wife in such a low way. But if we have to go, I want to be the one to punish Sume and her clan when the time comes. You're welcome, Soji, Naruto told him, and then he looked at Makoto, who was still thinking about everything. Miko-chan, kid, what do you think about this? After everything that had happened, I wish that the souls of my friends could rest in peace, Makoto sighed. Promise me that Sasuke Uchiha will get what he deserves and more, and that I can count on you, Naruto-sensei, to protect me from the council and my clan. That last part surprised Naruto, Soji, and Hana a little. That duck-butted asshole already has a spot in hell reserved for him, and I will be more than happy to send him there. And, as I've stated, if you are coming with me, you will be under a political and judicial protection of Fire Daimyo, Makoto, but why would you need protection against your clan? I can understand the council, they'll be more than happy to claw you up, but Clan Sarutobi? Naruto asked of her, interested in what was the deal in this one. My clan is well known for its loyalty and devotion to Konohagakure. What most people don't know is that Sarutobi clan law says that if a Sarutobi shinobi leaves their village and clan, no matter what the reason, they are to be found and killed on the spot. Makoto told Naruto, Soji, and Hana why she needed their help. This is why I asked you not to send me back to Konoha, because I knew what I would face there. The council would see me as a traitor because they like Uchiha bastard, and my clan would rather sacrifice a child of a traitor than stand by her side. Child of a traitor? Soji's brows went up as he asked. Soji's apprentice nodded when he asked, does that mean that one of your parents left the Sarutobi clan? My mother, Hikari Sarutobi, was of the Sarutobi clan. She was the younger sister of Asuma Sarutobi, who took over as guardian shinobi. While she was serving the previous daimyo, she fell in love with one of his sons, Tatsumaru Matsudera, and they had me in secret, Makoto told them, which surprised them all. Fire Daimyo and his family didn't really care about this, as royal family members having mistresses and lovers was nothing new, but Sarutobi clan. My mother's clan is known as a righteous, diligent, and loyal to Konoha and its own members. And if someone steps out of the line, as they see it, then they are punished. And not even Hokage's own daughter and wife to the successor of Fire Throne is safe from it. When I was about 3, we were on the way to the capital when a group of enemy shinobi attacked. The escort was killed quickly, and then. My mother was one of the best guardians, but she didn't last long against a group of nuke nins, and my father wasn't a shinobi. I, on the other hand, was taken to Konoha by the man who killed my mother and his sister. That explains why Tatsumaru Matsudera and his wife Hikari died in a mysterious way, Soji said quietly as he turned to Naruto. You told me why you hated the third Hokage so much, but to kill his own daughter and a top candidate for the throne. Bastard. Miko-chan, how did you find out about it? Were you not 3 at the time? I found one of Third's journals soon after he died, and that's how I found out about everything, Makoto said simply as she turned to Naruto. As you can see, Naruto-ni, I have more than enough of my own reasons to go back there as well. Naruto laughed at this one and said, yeah, I can see that too, Miko-chan. Or should I now call you Makoto Dono? Makoto just looked at him with a blank face. What? You're a daimyo's family member and the current daimyo's cousin, aren't you, Makoto Matsudera? Makoto just pouted a little at Naruto's joke before he spoke more seriously. Thank you, guys, it means a lot to me. I promise that as long as you're with me, Leaf won't be able to touch us without getting the daimyo's wrath, and if they do, we're free to do our own thing. Soji spoke up and said, that's good to hear, but I'm still trying to figure out how to retrain Konoha's police force, since I'll be in charge of its training officially. When he did, he saw the 3 former Konoha shinobi look at him in surprise and, oddly enough, with a bit of sympathy. Am I missing something? Hana told Soji, dear, the thing is. Konoha doesn't have a police force per se. Soji raised an eyebrow at this. The Uchiha clan was in charge of keeping Konoha and its streets safe, but after their massacre. Well, to put it bluntly. Soji almost yelled, wait, you mean to tell me that Konohagakure no Sato, one of the big 5 shinobi hidden villages and the one that won all 3 shinobi wars, doesn't have a regular police force? The police is an important institution for protecting civilians, keeping order, and enforcing the law, as well as preventing crimes and destabilizing national stability. And Konoha doesn't have it. How in the name of Kami have they been running civilian security without a dedicated institution for protecting civilians and enforcing the law? And how long has this been going on? 12 years? About that long, yeah. And don't ask me about this, but I don't think things were all that great when the police force was around. I'm biased, of course, taking all the facts into account, but... Naruto just shrugged and went on. But in all seriousness, the previous police force couldn't hold a candle to you and Saito, Soji. The Konoha police force was made up of clan Uchiha, as ordered by the second Hokage. The Uchiha worked semi-independently from the Hokage office and enforced the law on their own. As an experienced police officer, you can see how this could only get worse. If what you said is true, it's no wonder they tried to rebel, Soji said with a sigh. Okay, I'll take the job, but I'll need a few things from your Hokage and a few more instructors. I hope it's okay if I call some of my retired Shinsengumi friends and invite them in? Just check with Tsunade, but she shouldn't have any trouble with this. As for the payment to you and your friends, if they join in, we'll have to check with her and the current daimyo when we get the chance, since she basically made this mission, Naruto said as he broke the seal and spoke out loud. Now, if we're done, let's go. I'm sure that frog fetishist can't wait to hear what you've decided, Soji said as they walked to the door and stepped outside. Soji agreed with Naruto, because Jiraiya was sitting on a tree branch right above them. Naruto just kicked the tree hard enough, and the branch broke and Jiraiya fell with it, landing on his behind right in front of Soji and everyone else. Jiraiya, as a Sannin and a spy master, your skills at infiltration and espionage are quite impressive. However, there is a reason why Shinsengumi are also trained in these arts, along with ninjutsu and genjutsu. Say what you want. All you did was get lucky, Jiraiya huffed, giving Naruto and Soji the evil eye. Besides, it's common knowledge that no samurai or whatever these Mizu's militiamen call themselves can beat a shinobi, especially one from Konoha, with Naruto being the only exception. Jiraiya smirked, thinking that neither of the two would be stupid enough to challenge him to that, and even if they did, he would still win. Is that so? Jiraiya Dono, if you doubt my skills as a swordsman and the Shinsengumi as a whole, maybe I should show you. Soji knew he was being set up, but he couldn't pass up the chance to show Konoha's Sannin who was boss. You arrived here with Kushina Uzumaki, Konoha's mistress of swordsmanship, as well as with an Anbu Black Ops, carrying a sword with her, whom I presume to be none other than Yugo Uzuki, one of the top Konoha's Kenjutsu masters. A good opportunity to verify the validity of the common knowledge, wouldn't you agree, Lady Hokage? Soji, Hana, Makoto and Naruto turned to see the trio of women, with Yugo having revealed herself as well, standing there. Seems like it, said Tsunade. Then she looked at Yugo and agreed. What do you say, Yugo? Do you think you can match Mizu's best swordsman? Yugo was about to answer, but Kushina cut her off. Kushina replied for Yugo, she shouldn't have any trouble. After all, she used to be my apprentice in Kenjutsu, so she won't be able to lose to some wannabe samurai or whatever you call yourself. I can easily beat any of your Shinsengumi, and my Sochi can do the same, Kushina said proudly, without thinking. Well, if you're so sure of yourself, Kushina, why don't you back up your words with a sword? Naruto asked, surprising her and Jiraiya as he and Soji were already on their way to the training ground. Kushina suddenly asked, wait, what did he mean by that? Yugo answered this one. Yugo simply said, I think Naruto wants to see if you can do what you said about beating him. She took off her mask and pulled out her own sword, then walked towards her opponent on the other side of the training field, where Kushina reluctantly joined her. What are the rules of this challenge, Lady Hokage? Well, if that's all right with you too, she said. Naruto and Soji both nodded. Then here's how it works. 3 strikes to the vital points with blunt weapons, if you have them. The first person to do that wins. You have blunt katanas or something like that. Soji nodded as he walked to the training stands and pulled out 4 blunted katanas, throwing 2 to Yugo and Kushina and giving 1 to Naruto, who unsheathed it with Soji. Okay, no taijutsu, genjutsu, or ninjutsu, just kenjutsu. Yugo and Okita will go first. With that out of the way, Hajime. Tsunade gave the signal for the fight as Naruto and Kushina cleared the field. Yugo didn't want to miss her chance, so she went right after Soji, who had moved to make room for Hirazuki. She moved her sword to her right and went straight at him, while Soji watched her every move carefully. When she was only about 1.5 meters away, Yugo split into 3 pieces that could be seen, followed by afterimages that seemed to confuse Soji, even though he didn't show it. Soji stayed in his stance and watched as all the images disappeared. Then, all of a sudden, he moved gracefully to the left and brought his blade up. Yugo landed where Soji was supposed to be, and her eyes were wide with surprise that she hadn't hit him. But her surprise didn't last long when Soji slashed Yugo in the back with his blunt katana, which would have killed her in a real fight. Yugo was shocked by the sharp pain in her back, and she pushed away from Soji to get away from him. Once she thought she had, she turned around and just barely blocked his thrust at her throat by locking onto Shinsengumi's best swordsman and looking at his emotionless face. As they touched each other, Yugo let herself talk to him. She asked him, as she moved back a bit under the pressure, how did you manage to see through my crescent moon dance? Soji just told her, your afterimages might be able to confuse most opponents, but not someone who has been trained to always look at shadows. And this time, your shadow betrayed you, Soji told her as he moved Yugo's blade to her right, leaving her completely open to his attack. Putting his blade close to his right shoulder, he thrust it at Yugo's left kidney, then brought it up and cut diagonally across her torso to end the fight. Yugo stepped back when she felt pain. She panted a little and put her training sword away, and Soji did the same and bowed to her. She returned the favor by walking over to the stand and putting her sword back there. Then she went over to Tsunade while Soji stood near his apprentice and wife. Naruto and Kushina walked to the training field and stood in front of each other on opposite sides of it. Naruto put on a calm face, put his hand on the handle, and took an Iaido stance to prepare for an attack and defense. Kushina took out her katana and brought it up to her chin, with the blunt side facing down and the supposed cutting edge facing up. She didn't want to fight against her own son, and she was cursing her mouth in her head right about now. But if she could show him right now that she was strong and teach him how to hold a sword the right way, she would definitely win her son back. After all, Jiraiya and Kakashi had told her that he always bugged them about training, and what better way to get her son back than to offer him training. Tsunade rang a bell to signal the start of the fight, and Kushina chose to be the first to attack. Naruto decided to do the same. He moved quickly from where he had been standing and got closer to Kushina, his hand close to his blade. Kushina saw this as a chance to strike, so she closed the distance between them and went for her son's shoulder with a thrust. Naruto knew this attack was coming, so his body moved smoothly in a circle to Kushina's right, passing her as she turned her sword to attack him. But Naruto was faster. In a flash, he pulled the blade out of its sheath and swung it hard and fast at Kushina's neck, sending her flying forward and down to the ground. Naruto looked at his mother's body as it lay on the ground before she started to get up. She spat blood out of her mouth and wiped the dust out of her eyes as she saw Naruto bring his blade into a Gadotsu stance and run towards her, ready to thrust his own sword at her. Kushina had to admit to herself that her son was much faster than her, maybe even as fast as Minato, but she still had some fire left in her. When Naruto got closer, he aimed his blade at Kushina's shoulder, but he had to change direction to block Kushina's sword, which was coming at him from the right. The blades touched, and Naruto and Kushina both held their swords with both hands, refusing to give up and trying to beat each other. Kushina spoke up. She said, "Naruto, why don't you just listen to me? I know what I did was wrong, and I'm very sorry. Please, drop this whole act and come peacefully to Konoha." Naruto didn't answer, even though he was upset, and the two of them jumped away from each other. "We could be a family, a real family, with you and your little brother. I would help you find a good wife and bring you back as an Uzumaki of Konoha. Please, Sochi, just." Naruto just said, "Enough of this," and then he ran at Kushina as fast as he could. He was almost out of sight before his voice was heard again. "Uzumaki Kenjutsu, Sabama Gashi." Kushina's eyes grew wide when she saw 3 red blades moving quickly toward her and crashing into her body. When Naruto came back to the world, he saw that he had hit Kushina in the throat and kidneys. Kushina was still reeling from the effects of what is usually a kill or be killed move. She was hurt on her neck and sides, so it was hard for her to get up. She looked at Naruto, who didn't even look at her as he moved away toward the stands. Tsunade looked at Soji and his wife and spoke up as they did this. Tsunade just told him, "Well, Soji Okita, you're hired. I had my doubts that you Shinsengumi were as good as they said, but now that I've seen this, I can see why Water Daimyo thinks so highly of you." Soji told her in a humble way, "It's an honor to hear that from one of the Sannin and the best doctor in the world, Lady Hokage. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's now my job to rebuild and reorganize the work of Konoha's police force from the ground up." "No, you're not," Tsunade told him in a simple way, and Jiraiya spoke up when he heard this. "Wait, Tsunade, you want to rebuild Konoha's police force? Konoha doesn't have that many shinobi to spare, and council sure as hell won't be for this, not to mention." Jiraiya started to list all the things that wouldn't go well with this sudden idea, but Tsunade stopped him. She just asked him, "Jiraiya, are you the current Hokage of Konoha?" He shook his head at this question. "No, you are not. And if I remember correctly, the Hokage has the right to run whatever institutions he or she thinks are necessary for the village's well-being. And having something as basic as a bloody police force in our village, who would keep the criminal elements and other unsavory stuff in check. Plus, it will keep the public baths and hot springs safe from you. It's also about time that the people of Konoha got a real police force instead of random shinobi doing C-rank patrols and policing of the town, which they aren't really qualified to do." Soji didn't waste any time confirming what Tsunade had already thought. "That's right, Lady Hokage. The job of the police isn't just to catch criminals. It's also to keep the law and order in the population, stop crime from happening, look into possible lawbreaking, and more. This requires special training, a deep understanding of the law and the court system, and connections with a number of other offices, among other things. Because of this, there are a few things I'd like to talk to you about before we go to Konoha, if you have time. Since you're my son's friend, I figured you wouldn't waste time." Tsunade just smiled at this one. "We'll talk tomorrow on the way to Konoha. By the way, Naruto, what about that other person you wanted to talk to?" Naruto looked at his mother to answer, but he stopped for a second, as if he remembered something, and then spoke up. Naruto told Jiraiya, "Don't worry, I sent a shadow clone to talk to her. We'll meet her at my house, where she already went with her things," which made Jiraiya raise an eyebrow. "And who exactly is this, her?" Jiraiya asked with doubt. "Another mercenary friend of yours?" "No, Temu. She is someone you failed to be for me," Naruto told him in a harsh way. "She used to be my teacher. At Naruto's house, however." At a small camp near Naruto's house, the shinobi from Konoha were sitting and licking their wounds and their pride. They had just been beaten badly by someone they thought was the worst, a cheater, and a weakling in general. It was hard for the shinobi of Konoha to believe that Naruto was actually the son of the 4th Hokage, the grandson of the 5th Hokage, and a direct descendant of the 1st and 2nd Hokages. It didn't help that they had treated him badly during his last days in Konoha. Of course, they wouldn't fully admit that it was all their fault. They would think that their clans, parents, the council, and other people had a lot to do with it. But some of them knew, deep down, that Naruto was right to do what he did here and that, since he had been away from Konoha for so long, he was no longer a target for them to hunt. No, he's turned into a hunter, a predator, with more power than maybe even a Hokage and skills that could probably match those of his father. And right now, the members of Team 7 that Naruto helped during the fight were sitting near his house and thinking about what had happened the day before. Sasuke was so angry and furious that he was almost shaking from it. His body was almost broken from it. This was a complete loss for him, and it came from someone he thought was worthless and had no power over him. He would never agree that Naruto was on the same level as him or better than him, or he wouldn't be a Uchiha. Still, this shame has made him look bad. And Uchiha, the best and most talented person in Konoha, hurt him and almost killed him like it was nothing. He had destroyed his Susanoo and burned off his flesh, an arm, and one of his eyes, making it impossible for him to use Amaterasu properly. Even more embarrassing was the fact that he beat him with his own Enten. The Dobi was brave enough to use what was basically his clan's true power, but he didn't have a Sharingan or a Mangekyu, so it was just a fake. But that same fake had cost him an arm, an eye, and severe burns that Karen didn't want to heal. Even when she did, she couldn't make him look like he did before. Sasuke clenched his teeth and tried to keep his thoughts from running away. That Dobi, damn it. He has the nerve to insult and hurt me. Does he think he's on the same level as me because he got lucky? Don't be silly. Sasuke took a look at where Naruto lived. Dobi came when I brought up his house. So, that useless jerk has someone important in there, right? Well, if I can't kill him right now, I'll just punish those who had become like him. Maybe I'll even let that prostitute of a wife of his try out a real elite. Gurren left for a while, and Sasuke saw this as a chance to do something bad. He stood up and walked straight towards the door. Where are you going, Sasuke-kun? You need to sleep, and... Sakura had tried to stop him, but her wound kept reminding her of it. Shut up, Sakura. I'm going to find out what's inside that Dobi and who was stupid enough to hang out with him. Sasuke growled as he went toward the door. Kakashi stood up and moved closer, too, because he was curious. Sasuke opened the door with his one hand and looked inside. He saw what could only be called a normal family home, with pictures of 3 women, 2 children, and Naruto hanging around. Sasuke glared and snarled at them. He almost wanted to roar in anger because it seemed like Naruto was not only married, but married to 3 women and had children from all of them. Kids. Him. How that last piece of crap could be so happy and have a family is beyond me. And those women looked beautiful, strong, and worthy of his attention, but they would choose Naruto's seat over his. He wouldn't have it, he wanted those 3, but first. Mama. Did you see where Ma-kun is? A little girl came out of the guest room and yelled. Sasuke, who was looking for her, was right in front of her. Yusaka, you know the rules. When we play hide and seek, you can't ask me or anyone else for tips. Kurama spoke up. She came out of the kitchen and gave Sasuke Uchiha a look, grinning and snarling. She put Sasuke on the defensive right away and stood in front of her daughter. Yusaka, dear, go to your room now. Yusaka knew that Kurama's voice was authoritative. She forgot about the game and ran straight to her room because she could tell that Uchiha was upset. So, you're one of Naruto's girlfriends, right? Sasuke didn't ask so much as growl, returning Kurama's look with his own. Huh, so at least the Dobi has a taste. No matter, I'll show you what a real elite can do as soon as I've punished him for what he's done. You, those 2 other women, and Karen would all make good wives for me. Uchiha, you have 30 seconds to get out of this house and never come back. Kurama made a threat to him by focusing a small amount of her ki, but it was enough to overpower one person. Sasuke shook because he could feel how much ki this woman had, but that didn't stop him. No, it only made him more determined. He smirked and reached for her wrist in a rude and crude way, like a barbarian. I like it when a woman has some backbone to her. He smiled at her and walked toward her. It's even better when they give in to. In the next second, Sasuke Uchiha, the heir to the Uchiha clan and supposedly the most talented person in Konoha, was thrown out of the house and smashed into the ground. When everyone saw it, their eyes grew big and they almost didn't believe what they had just seen. After a very hard punch to the stomach, which may have broken some of his ribs, he fell on his back and spat out blood. Kurama walked out of her house with grace, but also in a way that showed she was very strong. She shut the door behind her. She walked calmly up to Sasuke, ignoring the curious and shocked looks of the Konoha shinobi. She took him by the throat with one hand and lifted him up in the air without any trouble, a sight that shocked many. Then she said something. I told you, Uchiha, to leave my house, but you didn't listen. Now you'll have to pay for not listening to your betters. Kurama raised her free left hand in front of Sasuke, who was strangling him, to dole out her own punishment, but she was stopped just as she was channeling her power. Don't do anything that could hurt my student, and could you please put him down? Kakashi spoke in a calm but threatening way, hoping to get this red-haired woman to stop. If you don't, I'll do everything I can to make you regret that choice. Hitaki was ready to use his Reikiri because the light sparkles on his free hand showed that he was ready to do so. Kurama turned to look at the man with one eye, who had the nerve to threaten her so openly. It almost made her laugh, but she had to remember that only a few people knew she was Kyuubi no Kitsune, the most powerful Biju in the world, who, at her strongest, could destroy whole countries in a few minutes. Few people had ever been brave enough to challenge Kurama to a fight, and only 2 had lived to tell the tale. Naruto's sensei was nowhere near as strong, skilled, or respected as those 2. Since Naruto had freed Kurama from her imprisonment in him, she had been getting her power back and was now very angry. It was the stupidest thing she had heard in years. Even though she was split into yin and yang and her yang half went to Naruto, Kurama found that after she was freed, her yin half of chakra was coming back to her on its own. Even though Minato had split Kurama in 2, there was nothing that could stop her halves from regaining their lost power and regenerating it to what it used to be. Kurama has done this, regaining her lost yin chakra in the simplest way possible for her chakra to regenerate, while the part that had been taken from her in the first place still stayed in Menma and was sealed away by Minato. Basically, there were now 2 Kyuubi, one with all of Kurama's power and free, and the other locked away with only half of Kurama's power in a child who couldn't even control it right, while his brother had full control of Kurama's full power. Kurama gave Kakashi Hitaki a dirty look and tossed Sasuke Uchiha away as if he were nothing but trash. She spoke to the man in a tone that was dead serious. You are the person who people call Kakashi Hitaki. In the past, you were supposed to train my husband. He had a confused look on his face, and Kurama saw it. If you try to hurt me again, Hitaki, it won't be my Naru-kun who kills you. And if that piece of trash from the Uchiha clan ever comes back to my house again, I'll send him back to the rest of his poor, dead clan. Kurama got out of Kakashi's grip and started walking toward her house, but Sakura stopped her. Hold on a minute, Missy. Who do you think you were to insult and threaten Sasuke-kun like that? I'll get you to pay. Sakura stood right in front of Kurama and threw a punch at her. Kurama easily dodged the punch and caught Sakura in the air. Let me go, you skank. Who the hell? Without taking a breath, Kurama's hand casually grabbed Sakura's caught fist and crushed it to pieces. The pinkette let out a piercing scream before Kurama hit her in the face with a single punch, breaking her lips and nose and knocking her out. Sakura. Okay, lady, I told you once before, but now. Just as Kakashi was about to use his jutsu, the ground between him and Kurama erupted in a red fire that seemed to burn everything it touched. So, this is the well-known copycat ninja Kakashi of the Sharingan. But, given the circumstances, I think it's no longer a copycat ninja. Kakashi, everyone else, and Kurama all looked at a young woman who walked right through the fire and stopped right between them. Kurama, can I take care of this garbage? I'm sure Yasaka is already looking for you, and I need to get even with this shameful sensei. Be my guest, Pakura. As she went back inside her house, Kurama just said. Pakura. You aren't Pakura of Shikuden, the supposed dead Suna Kunoichi who Kiri Shinobi killed about 8 years ago, are you? Kakashi asked her the question in a lazy way, but he was starting to sweat bullets because he might have to fight someone who could kill him 7 ways to Sunday, especially now that he didn't have his Sharingan. And I don't remember ever running into you before, so what kind of grudge do you have against me? You're right, we haven't seen each other before. Pakura said yes. But you and I have something in common, Hitaki. We both trained Naruto, though I was his real sensei and you just used him as a punching bag for this Uchiha scum. Wait, you are Naruto's sensei? How long ago was that? As the flames kept going up around them, Kakashi asked her in shock. After he left Konoha and until I thought he was ready to be a real shinobi. Pakura just replied to him. Now, Naruto had actually told me how you trained him and what you did to him in the past, his own sensei, who was supposed to be his best student and follow in the footsteps of his father. If I hated anyone more than traitors, it would be scum like you. A sensei who is unfair to his students, doesn't care about them, and is rotten to the core. You've hurt my student before, and I'm a woman who doesn't take offense easily, so Kakashi Hitaki, I hope you're ready for some payback. Pakura took a fighting stance because she was ready to make Kakashi pay for what he had done to Naruto in the past, as his sensei and more. Kakashi has always thought that he was better than most shinobi of the Jonin rank and could beat them in a fight. He was the most important student of the 4th Hokage, Minato Namikaze. He was a natural genius who became a Jonin at age 12 and an Anbu at age 15, making him one of the earliest shinobi ever to be made an Anbu. His skills, a wide range of strong and powerful jutsu, and a lot of experience have made him a scary opponent for anyone. Obito gave him the Sharingan, which was a key part of his strength and reputation. With him, all Kakashi had to do to win a battle was guess his opponent's next move and counter it. But yesterday, Naruto took off Kakashi's Sharingan in the middle of a fight, without much help from the outside or any painkillers for Kakashi. He then shut down Kakashi's nervous system by sending a strong amount of foreign chakra into it. He probably would have been proud of Naruto if he was still his apprentice, but he wasn't. And to add to Kakashi's injuries, even though Shizune had fixed him up, he was still sore and slow after his nerves were overloaded, and he also had a headache. All of that, plus the fact that Kakashi was now fighting one of the few kunoichi in the world who could compete for the title of the deadliest kunoichi in the world, made Kakashi sweat bullets and regret his life at the moment. Pakura was relentless, cruel, and hell-bent on seeing Kakashi's face in the dirt and her foot on his chest, and she was very good at hurting him now. He'd heard that she was Suna's mistress of fire, but right now, she was beating him with just taijutsu, which was so good it could compete with guys. Just now, Kakashi tried to punch her with his right hand, but Pakura easily caught it, pulled Kakashi toward her, and then kicked him in the face with her foot. Next, she tossed him over her shoulder with ease, and the silver-haired man landed just near the edge of her flame. Kakashi groaned in pain as he stood up, took out 3 of his kunai, and threw them right at Pakura. Former Suna's mistress just dove under them, then quickly got up and moved out of the way of Kakashi's next attack with his kunai. Pakura's movements were naturally more flexible, but she was still a long way from being as good as Yugito. For now, though, she could move like water and catch Kakashi again with his hand in kunai. 4 quick punches to his stomach and ribs, followed by one to the only eye he could see out of, was all it took for Kakashi to lose his grip on the kunai, step back, and cover the one eye he could see out of. Pakura decided that she had had enough of taijutsu, so she sent a strong stream of wind straight at Kakashi Hatake without even making hand signs. It pulled him into itself, took him out of the self-extinguishing ring, and carried him away from Naruto's house and camp. Then it slammed him against a tree, probably breaking a few of his ribs. Kakashi suddenly couldn't get up, even though he was spitting blood through his mask. It felt like his whole body was paralyzed, but he was sure he hadn't been poisoned in any way. Don't even try to move, he was told. It was hard for him to lift his head, but he did, and he saw Pakura right in front of him, as well as some writing on the ground. 4-symbol paralyzing seal. It's not the strongest paralysis seal in the world, but Naruto taught me a version that can hold even someone with a low cage level in place, which should be enough for you. Kakashi asked her, as Pakura clenched her fist, "Okay, I know you have a problem with me, but would you mind telling me what I did to make you so mad? From what I know, you were or are Naruto's sensei, but that's not the only reason you should be mad at me, is it?" "No, that's only half the reason, Kakashi Hatake. The other half is that 12 years ago, a small fishing village in the Land of Rivers was supposedly destroyed by Suna's nuke Nin Sasori. Your Anbu team was sent there to investigate. Do you remember what you did back then?" Pakura glared right at Kakashi, whose black eyes slightly widened as he remembered and understood. "No. Yes, copycat." Pakura gave him an angry look. "That village. That was where I lived. Back in 12 years. The lines that divide Land of Wind from Land of Rivers." Pakura and her personal unit were running through the woods as if they were racing against death itself. They were in a hurry because a pillar of smoke was rising in the east, close to the water. Pakura's eyes grew wide as soon as she figured out where the smoke was coming from. She jumped right in the direction it was coming from, without waiting or messing around. Her unit wasn't far behind her, and if they were asked later why they left their post, they could say that they were investigating. Land of Rivers was a friend of Land of Wind, and Suna's shinobi had missions and contracts to watch over its borders as well. But Pakura wasn't in a hurry right now because she had a mission or something. No, she was jumping toward a small fishing village near the border of Land of Wind. It was her home and where she had spent most of her childhood until she and other members of her clan were sent to Suna as part of a deal between Rivers and Suna. Pakura's clan was more independent. They didn't want to live in a shinobi village, but they weren't so stubborn that they wouldn't work with them. After settling down in the fishing village, the clan's leaders made contact with the Suna and made a trade, protection, and non-aggression pact with them. In exchange, the clan sent shinobi to serve in the Suna's ranks. Later, after a certain amount of time, they would be able to leave the service or stay in Suna as official citizens with some rights. Pakura was one of the shinobi Suna was supposed to get, and she was now on her way home and praying that everything was okay there. Unfortunately for her, the gods and fate were not on her side today. When she and her unit got to the edge of the forest, they saw a terrifying sight. A small village with less than 30 houses had been burned to the ground, and the bodies of men, women, and children who had been killed by kunai, shuriken, stabs, and jutsu were all over the ground. There was a smell of rotting and burned flesh in the air, and some of the shinobi who were not as strong as Pakura threw up. Pakura, on the other hand, was frozen in place with a horrified look on her face. She finally spoke after a few seconds of silence. Look. Spread out. And look for survivors, double time. Pakura finally regained her composure and yelled orders. Her subordinates moved right away to carry them out, while Pakura ran to the house of the elder, which was the main house of her clan. She easily broke through the burned door and went inside, covering her nose right away because it smelled bad.
Blood, charred meat, a smock, and
ozone? Pakura was not a beginner. She had done many missions for Cage and Suna, including ones where she had to deal with Kumogakure and its shinobi. And because she had been here before, she knew that if the air smelled like ozone, it meant that Raiden Jutsu had been used. This place smells like Raiden, but what the hell is Kumo doing here? It's too far away from them, and even Iwa doesn't go that far south. Something doesn't make sense to her. The only other shinobi village close to this place, besides Suna, is... Wait, coughing? Futon. Great breakthrough. With hand signs, Pakura lets out a stream of wind that clears the area and lets her see a small girl with black hair who is coughing and wearing a simple dress. Pakura grabs the girl and jumps out of the house through the wooden window. He runs through the ambers and small flames. Once they are outside, she carefully puts the girl against the fence and gives her some water while letting her cough out of the smoke. After all of this, Pakura looks at her and asks, "What do you think?" "Don't worry, you're safe now. We're Suna Shinobi, and I'm Pakura, the daughter of China and Jin," Pakura told the girl. The girl calmed down after she heard her name. "I'm from this village and part of the Akahi clan. You can trust me, so tell me what happened here and who did it." I was with my mom and dad when suddenly some strange people attacked. They were dressed like shinobi but had animal masks on, the girl said as she coughed and Pakura stiffened up even more. Animal masks? Definitely Anbu Black Ops. As an Anbu herself, Pakura knew that only someone on their level could do something so horrible. "Tell me, did you notice anything unusual about them, like strange jutsu, looks, or something else along those lines?" Girl told Pakura, one of them, the leader, had silver hair with spikes and lightning in his hand. He also had a red eye, a blood red eye. He killed my mother when we ran to the head house and... It didn't take long for the girl to start crying, and Pakura hugged her to try to calm her down, even though she was boiling with rage and anger on the inside. Pakura cursed Suna's supposed friend in his mind, saying, "Silver spiked hair, red eye, and lightning in his hand. Konoha, damn you and your copycat ninja, Kakashi Hatake. First you used us as a shield against Iwa, then you stole our contracts and left us broke, and now this. My home, my clan, and my family. Lord Cage must hear about this, it can't stand. I will make you all pay, you Konoha scum. I'll personally burn you all to death, and as for you, Hatake, I'll drown you in the depths of Inferno with my own hands for doing this." Flashback end. When Lord Cage heard about it, he refused to do anything against you, Konoha scumbags. I demanded that Suna take action, but he just wouldn't do it. It is too costly for Suna and unnecessary to risk the lives of our people and resources just to avenge a small fishing village, he told me, Pakura told Kakashi. Soon after that, I was sent to Kiri as a sacrifice, but the jerk didn't realize how skilled I was. I didn't get out of Kiri without getting hurt, but I was still able to escape. Knowing that if I went back to Suna, I would be killed, I moved to an island nation near the Whirlpool and Firelands. I'm sure you know which one I'm talking about, Kakashi. Kakashi asked her, Wave. So Naruto went to Wave right after he was sent away, didn't he? Should have guessed, but who would have thought he'd find someone like you? As for your village, we heard from our sources that your village was giving weapons and resources to renegade groups in Konoha. The evidence we saw showed that it was true, so the Hokage gave us the orders. It wasn't personal. Pakura replied, my village survived by trading with Suna and fishing, and the only weapons it had were those in the hands of my clan, which wasn't even enough to arm a battalion of soldiers, let alone trade. In Suna, I heard that there was a warhawk in Konoha who was hell-bent on taking over Konoha and getting rid of any supposed threat to it. Danzo Shimura, is that the guy who gave your Hokage the information? Pakura could see that she was right. It makes you wonder if your third was really a Hokage or not, but that doesn't make up for anything you did back then. Maybe, but here's what bothers me. If you were in Wave the whole time, why didn't you take down Zabuza and Gado on your own? Pakura told him, I was away from Wave visiting some old friends. When Gado showed up, I didn't want to draw attention to myself, so I stayed in River for a while until I heard that he had died. I may have been thought to be dead, but it wouldn't do if I were found. As for how I found my last and best apprentice. Flashback. It's been 7 years and 6 months. Wave Country. The port market in town. Pakura, dressed like a normal person, was looking for food and maybe some new clothes from other lands as she walked around the trading stands. Since the blockade of Wave was lifted and Gado's company was taken over by Tazuna, who is now the daimyo of Wave, trade has been booming like never before. Wave is quickly becoming a center for trade on this side of the world. And it was all because of the boy whose name the bridge was named after. It linked the Wavelands and the Firelands. Even though Pakura didn't like that Kakashi Hataki's team did it, she would have liked to meet the kid, Naruto, as Tazuna called him, who saved these people. She had heard that boy was one of a kind, and the fact that he could give hope and will to the whole land was something Pakura could respect. Pakura was already on her way home when she went through the stands and bought fresh fish, rice, and a new dress and shoes. This went on for a while, until she heard something in the back corner of the street that sounded like a fight. She went over to see what was going on because she was curious about all the noise. Once she got there, she saw an interesting scene. About 7 sailors were attacking a 13 or 14-year-old boy with sun-kissed blonde hair, blue eyes, and 3 whiskers on his cheeks. The boy was wearing a horrible, ragged orange jumpsuit and killing the sailors without much trouble. It didn't take Pakura long to figure out that the kid was definitely a shinobi, but she found it strange that he wasn't wearing a headband from any village. But she quickly forgot about that small thing when her professional side came out and she noticed something that really bugged her. The way the kid fought. What in the name of Kami is this? That kid's fighting style is even worse than his jumpsuit, said Pakura as he watched him fight against the sailors in a clumsy way. Stance is stiff and doesn't move, footwork isn't there, and punches and kicks are predictable. If I ever find out who taught this kid taijutsu, I'll have something to say about it. Still, he has speed and strength behind his strikes, but such style. If I didn't know better, I would have thought it was designed to kill this kid. Okay, time to end this horror show for my eyes. Pakura had trained herself to the point where she was almost a living weapon. This made her an expert when it came to killing enemies quickly and effectively. Now she was going to see if she had lost any of her skills by closing the distance between herself and the sailors as quickly as she could. When Pakura slammed the first 2 people she killed together, their heads hit. The next one got a quick punch to the jaw, and Pakura kicked him into the trash can. His friend was soon after, and Pakura hit him in the groin and threw him in. The last 3 Pakura threw against the wall with Winjutsu by making a quick series of signs. In just a few seconds, everything was over, and the blonde kid looked in awe at his unwanted rescuer, who spoke up on her own. "Kid, are you okay there?" Pakura asked him. The blonde stopped looking at her and looked at him instead. Pakura asked him in all seriousness, "Would you mind telling me what a genin like you was doing all the way in Wave, and what in the name of Kami you were doing here?" "Huh? Oh, I'm fine, don't worry. And I'm not a genin anymore," Blonde told Pakura, whispering the last part with a lot of sadness, which made Pakura raise her eyebrow. "Well, I was, but about a week ago, I was kicked out of Konoha." Pakura's eyes grew wide at this, as she couldn't understand why Konoha would kick out a genin. "You were kicked out of Konoha, right?" Pakura asked again, and this time the blonde nodded. "Why did your Hokage banish you?" Banishment is usually the second worst punishment for crimes like treason, treachery, etc. "Did you do something so bad that?" No, I didn't, I just did what I was told to do, and those scumbags, they. The blonde's sudden outburst and stutter surprised Pakura because she could see a lot of anger and rage in him, but also sadness, just like she felt. Pakura thought for a second that she had seen herself in the mirror, but she hadn't. The kid must have just been doing his job, and his village must have decided to get rid of him, just like they did with her. Pakura's face softened as she looked at the child with sympathy. She put a hand on his shoulder to calm him down a little before she spoke again. "Kid, aren't you hungry?" the woman asked. The blonde looked up at the woman in surprise. "I don't live too far away, so if you help me with my bags, I'd be happy to share lunch with you." The blonde said, "Sure," and went to help the woman with her bags before leaving the corner with her. "By the way, my name is Naruto." "It's Naruto Uzumaki." Pakura was surprised by the boy. "Naruto, are you the same kid for whom that bridge is named?" Pakura asked. The boy gave him a nod and smiled back. "I'll bet. Everyone in this town and other places are practically preying on your name because of what you did for them by getting rid of Gato and his mercenaries." Tizuna wouldn't stop talking about what a great kid you are. "You know the old man Tizuna? Wait, the way you fought back there. I don't remember you in Konoha, and you don't have a headband. Are you a nuke nin like Zabuza?" Naruto asked Pakura, who replied. "Neither," Pakura told him. "My old village, Suna, thought I was dead after my supposed diplomatic mission to Kiri because I didn't come back." Naruto's head went up at this one. The mission was just a setup, a way to sacrifice me to Kiri to end the war between Suna and them. My killers underestimated me, and I've survived. Since then, I've been living here as a civilian. Oh, and my name is Pakura, Pakura of Scorch Release, you may have heard of me." "Nope, this is the first time I've ever heard it," Naruto told her, again surprising Pakura. "It looks like your village isn't better than mine. Well, I hope Gaara can make things better up there now that he's a case cage. He's sure to make things a lot better for both civilians and shinobi. Yeah, I've heard that he is now highly respected in Suna. Who would have thought that the kid who the villagers hated so much would become their leader?" Pakura asked the boy, noticing that he looked sad. "We're almost there. Would you mind telling me what happened between you and Konoha? I'm curious about why they just kicked you out," Pakura said. Naruto just nodded, and he and Pakura went into the house. After 2 hours, Pakura thought that Konoha couldn't do anything to make her hate it more than she already did. She made a big mistake. Pakura was horrified, disgusted, and angry all at the same time after having lunch with Naruto and hearing his story. For Konoha to destroy and expel a loyal shinobi just because he was doing his job, and to make matters worse, to tell the whole world that he was the Kyuubi, as the village had thought. Konoha, a village that was always so cocky and proud of its strong bonds of friendship and loyalty, its wall of fire, and all that other nonsense, did this to a kid who could be great. It took everything Pakura had not to throw himself at the nearest piece of furniture and set it on fire in a fit of rage. Pakura's protective nature came from being a teacher and sensei to genins and students of Suna. He was disgusted by how Kakashi Hatake had treated his own student. She made a silent promise to herself that if she ever had the chance, she would kill that jerk for what he had done to her. After he calmed down and thought about what had happened, Pakura looked at Naruto and spoke again. He was interested in what he was doing now. Pakura asked him, "Are you going to settle down in Wave for now, Naruto?" He shook his head. Naruto told Pakura, "No, I can't do that right now. There's a group of S-rank missing nins after me, and now that everyone knows I'm Kyuubi's holder, other nations will be after me as well. I can't stay in one place for long, or they'll find out," and Pakura nodded. "I don't think Konoha would let me live in peace, either. In a year or two, they'll be looking for me, too, just to keep me away from other people." "That's true, kid, but if that's the case, what's your overall plan?" asked Pakura. "Well, Kyuubi and I got in touch recently, and it told me to go away, fake my own death, and change my appearance." Pakura was surprised by this. "So, I have an idea of how to do it, so I'm going to Suna so Gaara can help me. After that, I'll go to Uzushiogakure, where Ka-chan said my clan and Senju's legacy is." I see." Pakura couldn't help but agree that it was a good idea, but she still had one more thing she wanted to do with Naruto. "Naruto, you said that Kakashi Teme and Jiraiya didn't teach you anything except tree and water walking, summoning, and Rasengan of Fourth, is that right? And that your academy teachers were the only ones who taught you taijutsu?" "Yeah, Kakashi was mostly worried about that jerk Sasuke, and Jiraiya was always looking at women," Naruto grumbled. "As for my teachers, they didn't really train me as much as beat me to death," he said. "That explains why your taijutsu was so terrible. All of those moves were fast and strong, but with that style, you should already be dead." The fact that you even used it well shows what a gem those jerks tried to kill. Pakura sighed, noticing Naruto's surprised look. Why do you look so surprised? I've been an academy instructor and teacher in Suna for 8 years, right after I became a chunin, so I know how to spot hidden talents and promising people. You, Naruto Uzumaki, are one of those kids. Really? You think that? Absolutely, but like a diamond, you need to be shaped by a professional, someone who knows that teamwork alone won't get people anywhere and that a team fights by combining individual skills with a natural bond of partnership between shinobi, Pakura told Naruto with a smile. I've taught more than 50 students at the Academy of Suna and turned 12 genins into chunins. Now, Naruto, I'd like to make you an offer. I'd like to teach you how to be a real shinobi. Naruto stared at Pakura in shock, so Pakura decided to explain himself. Before you ask or say anything, let me tell you that people like you are as rare as rain in the middle of a desert. You are the kind of person who gives hope to others, inspires and protects those who are down in spirits. I've always tried to train my students that way, and you are already there, but your skills and training need to be right, if you want to survive out there on your own. Why yes, I do. I want it, Pakura-sensei. Thank you. Naruto said with a smile as he bowed to him. Pakura smiled at her new student. Flashback end. And, unlike you and those idiots, I did my job well and taught Naruto everything I could and more. Pakura told Kakashi as she pulled out her kunai and started walking toward him. I know that Naruto has more than enough reasons to deal with you personally. But I know him well enough to know that he wouldn't mind if I took care of a piece of trash like you myself. To kill many innocent people and children, to twist your sensei's teachings for your own good and use his name as an excuse, and to leave your student when he needed you most. Scumbags like you do not deserve to live, Kakashi Hatake. When Pakura was about to cut his throat open, she said, I hate you. Hurricane of leaves. When Pakura heard that the green wild beast of Konoha was coming, she jumped right out of her spot. Might Guy took her place right away and got into a fighting stance. No one will kill Kakashi as long as I am around, because I am his eternal young rival, Might Guy, Konoha's beautiful green beast. And you, the sly teacher of that demon, will learn what youth, friendship, and honor really mean by the power of my fists. Guy was ready to punish Pakura divinely, but Pakura just got in her own fighting stance. Might Guy, the well-known beast of Konoha. Naruto had told me about you, especially your obsessive stupidity and what you had done to him and his friend Yakumo. Pakura started to focus her chakra as flames started to form around her body. To hurt innocent children so much and try to kill them out of rage and blind stupidity. People like you are one of the reasons I became a teacher. I wanted to make sure that people like you don't hurt children. And because of what you've done and the sins you've done, I will personally send you to hell. Shikuden. Kagatsuchi no Yoroi. With a quick series of hand gestures, Pakura's whole body was engulfed in the bright red flames. Her body and clothes were covered in a hot-as-hell flame aura, just like with Raito no Yoroi. Fire God's armor is on fire. Well, if that's how you want to do it, I'll have to answer this challenge with my own flames of youth. Open the 6th gate of view. With that shout, 6 of Guy's 8 inner gates opened up, creating a very powerful green aura around him, and he looked at Pakura. Now that I'm in this form, I'll make you personally regret meeting that demon, and... Guy, Kakashi, what the fucking hell is going on in here? Tsunade Senju's loud, powerful voice came from nowhere, making Naruto, Soji Okita, Hana Okita, Makoto Sarutobi, Kushina Uzumaki, and Jiraiya look at her. I told everyone to be quiet in here, and what do I find out when Naruto brings us here? You didn't stop Sasuke Uchiha when he tried to hurt Naruto's family? And to top it all off, you've threatened my daughter-in-law. With her ki, Tsunade's chakra went up, while Guy closed all of his gates. Guy, if I hear again that you called Naruto a demon or that you attacked his family or friends, I'll close those tenketsu for you for good. And as for you, Hatake, once we get to Konoha, I'll talk to you in person about these teamwork values you've been talking about. Now, Naruto said that you, Pakura of Shikuden, were his sensei. Yes, I am. I'm glad to finally meet you in person, Tsunade Senju. It's an honor to get to know you. Pakura gave her a small bow and took off her armor at the same time. Naruto told me a lot about you, and I appreciate all you've done for my former student. And it's a great honor to meet the person who started teaching medical subjects in schools. Well, I'm not a braggart, but it's nice to meet you, Pakura. I've heard about your work as a teacher and sensei, and I have to say that I'm almost jealous of you. Tsunade had a small laugh. Now, I assume you know that Daimyo hired Naruto to help Konoha on his own, and that if you come with us, you'll be considered a part of his group? Yes, Naruto's clone told me a lot of details, so I know what's going on. Pakura proved everything. It's been a long time since I went on a mission, and I'm curious about Konoha's school system, so I'm more than happy to go with my former student on this kind of mission, even if it means working with people like Frog Trash and traitors to one's blood. Pakura glared at fuming Jiraiya and Kushina. Why you? Who the hell do you think you are to call me that? The disgraced Suna Kunoichi who was so useless that Suna gave her to Kiri in exchange for peace. Jiraiya shot back at Pakura. Let me tell you, I've trained the 4th Hokage and will soon finish training the 6th one, but what have you done? Training 54 students who became Chunin in their first year as Genin, 12 Genin who are now respected Jonin instructors, 3 of whom are in Anbu and 1 of whom runs Suna's academy. And I taught one of the world's most famous Ronins and a man who helped keep a whole country from collapsing. Pakura's answer was simple and didn't skip a beat. I never set out to train a cage or get famous. My only goal was to teach children the right way to be shinobi so they wouldn't have to live with the mistakes of their ancestors and could make their own way in the world. This is what a sensei and teacher should work toward, not just making 1 or 2 people Hokage. Jiraiya, if you think I'll let that shame of a shinobi become Hokage, you might as well be getting old. Tsunade gave him a mean look. Menma may have some of Minato's talent, but his pride, arrogance, and stubbornness are worse than yours. Just by looking at him, Kushina, I'm glad you didn't raise Naruto. Menma may have a few flaws, but he is just as smart as Minato, if not smarter than Minato, Tsunade. And no matter what you do, you can't take away his rightful place as Senju and Uzumaki head. Kushina glared at Tsunade. He has my and Minato's blood, the blood of the people who started his clans, so you have no right to. I'm still the head of Senju, and neither you nor that damned council can tell me who should take my place. Tsunade reminded to Kushina. As for the Azukage, or head of the Uzumaki clan, as it is usually called. Even though I'm not a real Uzumaki, Mito Ba-chan told me that the sacred right to be an Azukage belongs to the person who holds Zangetsu, which is one of the 3 founding sacred relics of Azukage. The other 2 were lost, but Zangetsu is still here, and you and I both know that Kushina has it. When it was brought up, Kushina stiffened up, and Naruto took away Kakashi's 4-symbol paralysis seal. Hitaki, if you threaten my wife again, I'll come for your eye and your head if I see that Uchiha scumbag of yours near her or my family. Naruto threatens his old sensei and then teleports away to his house. In a flash of black and red, he was standing right in front of his house, where Sasuke and Sakura were again trying to break in, but this time Gurren and Karen were there to stop them. Naruto told them to move out of the way and went over to his 2 former teammates. His ki almost filled the whole area, drawing the attention of those 2 and the others to him. Sasuke gave Naruto a smirk, while Sakura, whose hand had been fixed, was already yelling at him. Naruto. One of your whores hurt Sasuke-kun, so send her away so I can punish her. Get those other 2 women out, too, or I'll make you regret ever touching Sasuke and taking what is rightfully his. Naruto grabbed Sakura by the throat and lifted her up without saying a word, which even surprised Sasuke. Sakura, you are such a pain in the neck. And without any bother or doubt, Naruto snaps her neck with a simple move of his hand, putting an end to Sakura Haruno's miserable life. Her body fell to the ground in front of Naruto, Karen, and Gurren. I've been waiting so long to tell her to shut up. Karen said this with happiness. Naruto, give me some time, and I'll rock your world. Tell me the date and place, and I'll dry you out. Karen said this with confidence and resolve. You do remember that you and she are cousins, right? Gurren told her friend about this small fact. I checked, and we are from 2 branches that are very far apart. Besides being from the same clan, we don't have many real blood ties. After everything he has done for me and how he has saved me, I would only be with him. Karen said simply, putting her glasses back on. Naruto, you monster. How could you just kill Sakura that way? He was yelled at by Ino. You loved her, and now all you have to do is. It looks like you've changed a lot, Naruto. Shikamaru said coldly, standing up. Back when we knew him, Naruto would never kill someone just because they were a pain. But you, it looks like you really are a devil. First kill Kiba, then kill Sakura. I can promise you that neither of those will work. The council is going to. Shikamaru, if you haven't noticed already, I only answer to the daimyo and Hokage, not to your council. And as for Kiba, that rabid dog deserved it for years, and Sakura attacked my wife when she tried to protect our family. On that note, Naruto looked at Sasuke, who was fuming with anger, before hitting him with all of his ki, which made Sasuke shiver in fear. First you try to kill me, and now that you can't, you go after my children and wives? I wonder if Kakashi taught you that or if this is just how Uchihas fight in wars and battles. Dobi, do you really think you can get away with that? Once council finds out, they'll hang you from a rope, and they'll be happy to give your prostitutes to me, the best Uchiha. And as for your little scumbags, they'll have to pay for their father's mistakes once I've properly bred your whores. I'll even make them watch as their mothers are made to bow down to Uchiha's power and carry my seed instead of yours. Sasuke growled and grinned, not noticing that Naruto's left hand was using medical chakra. You don't even deserve to breathe the same air I do, and you definitely don't deserve a family and kids. When we get back to Konoha, the council will do exactly what I tell them to do, and you will pay with your life, Dobi. Sasuke, you know what's funny? Naruto asked him out of the blue. You are the person I want to kill the most, but I couldn't enjoy it if I did it right now. No, I'll keep you alive and make sure you see how you kill yourself by being mixed with crap and dirt and made to beg to die. And once you're on your knees and begging for death, I'll let you go. But for now, I'll make sure there are no more worthless people like you. Naruto's right hand quickly paralyzed Sasuke, and his left hand went to Sasuke's groin, pushing the destructive energy into Uchiha's pride and personal glory. Sasuke was stuck and couldn't move, so he could only watch in horror as Naruto's Iryo ninjutsu went inside his crotch and balls, making him feel like he was rotting from the inside out. He screamed in pain, fell to the ground, and held his groin with his only hand. He could feel that the tool he had planned to use to start a new clan was literally rotting away. Naruto used water jutsu to clean his hands as he looked at Sasuke Uchiha crawling on the ground, desperately trying to keep his manhood together but failing horribly. Gurren was more interested in what Naruto did to him than Karen was. Karen just turned away in disgust. What was that jutsu you just did to him, Naruto? It looks like a terrible pain. Gurren just said it, and Naruto spoke up. This is something I thought of when I first started learning Iryo ninjutsu. You know why it's important for doctors to have perfect chakra control, so that they can send healing chakra into the body in the right way and speed up the healing process of cells, right? Gurren nodded at this one. While protecting Tsunade, he had learned a few things. Well, when I was training on injured and dead animals in Uzu, I quickly learned that if you put too much medically charged chakra into a body, the cells will not only start to multiply quickly, but will also mutate and multiply in a way that kills the body in seconds. Think of it like cancer on Red Bull, steroids, and acid, sort of. Anyway, the most important thing about all of this is that Sasuke's reproductive system went through the whole process of becoming cancerous in a split second, before falling apart because the cells were destroyed. They say that Rasengan is dangerous. If you stick something like this between your legs, you won't have any fun. Naruto just laughed as he looked at Gurren and Karen's horrified faces. Shit, I thought Orochimaru was a dark character, but this. Naruto, you know that sometimes you can be scary, right? Gurren told him, but Naruto just shook his head. Does Tsunade know what? I call it Hand of Corruption, because it basically corrupts cells to the worst state they can be in. Yes, she does know. I even showed her how to do it, which is easy to do. It's a C rank in terms of how hard it is, but it can work as well as an S rank. Naruto just said it, which made Gurren and Karen gasp. Don't worry, I'd never use it on you and your friend. You were too beautiful to be doing something so disgusting and awful. Because of that one comment, they were as red as tomatoes. Now, about Sasuke Uchiha. Now, Karen, you can thank me later for putting an end to the Uchiha clan in this way. Oh, I'm sure I can think of more than just a few ways to say thank you, cousin. Karen licked her lip in an alluring way. After all, I've also been studying Iryo ninjutsu. And how to make the act last longer and be better, if you know what I mean. Talk about it with Kurama and the others first, Karen. Then we can talk about it. Naruto just said, I've had enough, and went inside his house. He decided to start getting ready to leave.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.